So whenever I'm making a soup that includes potatoes, I'll go into a new bag and I will find the smallest ones possible, because those are the ones that you can't make into fries or cut into large chunks and do wedges. So whenever I go to potatoes, I get the smallest ones because those are the ones that aren't able to be used in other recipes. And the reason the potatoes are last to go in is because you do want them to have a little bit of structure and not just like evaporate into the pot. So ultimately, like in terms of order, what we did here is we chopped the onions first, got them in sweating, and cooked those down. While those were starting to cook down, I got the carrots all chopped into small chunks. That went in, continued to saute. Then the celery went in, chopped that while the onions and the carrots were cooking. And then finally put in the garlic last. Once it was all a little bit softer and had started to caramelize a little bit, that's when I put the veggie broth in. Veggie broth was made yesterday from a bag like this. This is all the scraps of last handful of recipes, having some scraps of onion and carrot and celery and some cabbage and a couple shreds of other things here and there. So, then we put the homemade broth in, and then we put some cut up zucchini in here, some frozen peas, and now this is the last vegetable to go in, the chopped and diced potatoes, which is going to give us some really, really nice flavor and also will help combine with the chickpeas to be a complete protein between the amino acids. All right, so I'm putting in some parsley, which obviously great flavor, also really, really good on the mineral side. We're going to put in some oregano. Both are classic Italian spices that should, add some flavor and also, get some nice minerals into the pot. So we're going to get this all mixed in and then put the top over so that the potatoes can cook and start to soften. All right. I would say with the broth, so you saw the scrap bag. I had another one of those at home, which is how I made the broth. Basically, what you do is you take one of those frozen bags, you put it into a pot. Ideally, you have like a strainer attached to the pot. I do at home so that like once it's all cooked, you can just pull it out and the water stays and the solids come out. But for that, you just cover it up until it's covered with water, the frozen vegetables. Then you put it on the pot, onto the stove. You get it boiling, and then you maybe turn it down to like medium. And then you let it really just cook down for maybe hour, hour and a half, even 2 hours. And then once you pull the solids out, you'll have like a very dark, rich, flavorful broth. And at the same time, I put in the zucchini as well as the green peas. I also put in 3 cans of rinsed chickpeas. So just making sure that, we get all of the vegetables and items in at the right order to make sure that we have the right textures for all of these different ingredients. So just mixing. I think whenever you have like heavy legumes and beans, like chickpeas and even the peas, they can get stuck to the bottom. So you just want to make sure that as you're getting everything to meld, that nothing's sticking, nothing's burning. And the other tip I would say is the common mistake people make when they're making a vegetable soup, specifically minestrone, is the better it looks in terms of like being able to identify every vegetable, the worse it's going to taste, because none of those flavors are melding in. All of these vegetables, if you don't cook them enough, just retain their juices, and it doesn't create like a really savory broth. So the key to any vegetable soup or minestrone is to cook the crap out of it and make sure it melds. You want the actual broth itself not to be clear. You want it to be murky, because that means all of these other vegetables release their juices and all of the tastes are melding, as opposed to like all having individual tastes, within each vegetable. So we're going to just keep cooking this down probably about an hour until this starts to get a little bit murky, the water. and that some of these vegetables are starting to break down, starting to get a little bit mushy. So it's kind of funny. The worse it looks, the better it's going to taste. The better it looks from a presentation standpoint with these vegetable soups, typically the worse it's going to taste. So it's kind of ironic. When you have a meal that's literally all vegetables, obviously extremely healthy, you do want to make sure you have enough fat in there so that you stay full and you're not like hungry all day. So not only is it great for, flavor and texture, by putting olive oil in, making it extra creamy, it also will then, have a little bit of fat in there so it keeps you full and, you're not snacking an hour later. So when you have a lot of vegetables, olive oil is a great way to add flavor and add some healthy fats so that your body can absorb everything and stay full for a very long time. We've got the potatoes, which are usually last to soften. They are soft. When I put a spoon into them, they'll cut right through. So they still have some texture, but they're certainly soft and starting to get some of that starch out, which is creating this murky broth, which is what we want. We want to ideally not have clear broth. We want it to kind of all meld together. So now that we're getting really close to the desired texture, consistency, and flavor, last will go in the pasta. If you put it in way too early, it's just going to get gummy and it's going to start falling apart and get really, really huge by just, sucking up all the water. What we really want is to fully cook the soup, put the noodles in last, so we have that al dente taste and texture, and some of the starches from the pasta start to get mixed in with the soup, which again thickens it up, gets it to meld a little bit more. So we're really close. We'll add that soon, but that's kind of the thought process behind putting in the pasta last. And now, as you can see, the broth is kind of murky as opposed to clear. That means texturally everything should be good and the flavors should be phenomenal from here on out.
So I would give it a 8.3. I think this is the best one yet. Really flavorful, and yeah, good job, Norm.
So I'm gonna go 8.4. Very hearty, like soup, and we're in Cleveland, so we need it. And it's rare to get something like very hearty. It's also healthy.
I would say a 7.6. Pretty good. Definitely not the same type of minestrone soup that I'm used to. Not a red broth, as you can probably see here. But Norm did pretty well, I gotta say.
Really excited for this. Been smelling it all morning. Norm's been cooking away over here. It's been delicious. Looks really good. Lots of ingredients. The potatoes are a nice add, so we're gonna try it out here. Really good. I'm gonna go 7.7.
I think it's a really good batch. Really like it. I think Dan Buettner would be proud from Living to 100 documentary. It's big on the blue zones, and this is what the people in Sardinia, Italy, eat just about every day that are centenarians. So we'll try to eat this and live to 100.